To know the mind of Scantuary, one must travel back to the time where it was residing in its cradle. Ever so powerful, ever so astonishing, ever so perfect. And then, bang! Hello everyone, this is the Holy Hermit, and today we'll be talking about Diablo 3. No gameplay, no builds, nothing, but the universe itself, the story it presides over, the whole lore, so to speak, where it all came from. What are all these angels, these demons that you see in the game? What is a Nephilim after all? And more importantly, where did these people, these angels themselves, and the demons even, where did they all come from? The lore of the Diablo world can be only read in the Book of Cain, a book published by Blizzard before the launch of Diablo 3, a book that covers all the story, where Scantuary came from and everything else. I personally will be covering parts of this book, what I've read so far, and the whole gist of it in a small video of mine. So we start off by going to the very beginning, not the beginning of the world, but the beginning of the universe itself. Before there was anything else, there was only a void. Absolutely nothing. No flesh, no air, no fire, no leaves, no light, not even dark, just absolute nothingness. And then there was a single perfect pearl. A diamond-like structure appeared in the heart of the universe, also shiny, also great, the only thing that could be described as a perfect supreme being, God even in certain aspects, and this being was called as Anu. Anu, the first one. This very first supreme being that existed inside this pearl was the sum of everything that one could hope for, not just the good or the evil, but the net sum, whether it be pain or suffering, joy or love. It comprised it all, and that was the very first creature that existed. As time went by, Anu seeked perfection. It tried to get rid of all the evil things inside him, all the hatred, the pain, the suffering, and in his struggle he managed to cast it out after a very long time. And when that evil was pushed out, it became the very first primeval. This primeval was called Tatmet. This one supreme being was now split into two, Anu being his own self in the diamond form, and the other being a seven-headed dragon called Tatmet. Whether they were two different souls or not, they did still reside in a single pearl, in a single tiny universe of their own, and within there the conflict grew, and that conflict led to war. This war lasted for also a very long time, and at a point where time itself was not a concept after all. The struggle between Anu and Tatmet kept on growing. They were fighting for a very long time, but to no end. They were equally powered, equally matched, and in the end, in a violent explosion of display of power and belief, they both died. That violent burst broke the pearl itself, and it created the universe around us. All the stars that we see, the darkness that surrounds them, the feelings we have, all the matter, even the Scantuary itself, was later on created because of this very own act. And where these beings died, where this pearl resided, made a very big rift, almost like a little scar in this universe, and it is known as Pandemonium. And at the very heart of this Pandemonium lied a great relic from the time itself, and this relic was the very eye of Anu himself, which later on created the World Stone. Anu and Tatmet died, yet their relics themselves remained. The Anu shining spine that left behind after the explosion led to the creation of high heavens, the crystal arch that is. As the time went by, this crystal arch was the very birthplace of the angels themselves. They are also called as seraphim. These angels are all ruled by the Angelus Council. That is, it's presided over by 5 mighty angels. Archangels they are called, archangels of justice, hope, wisdom, fate, and valor. When Tatmet died, his body led to the creation of burning hells. All of his 7 heads led to the creation of evils, whether they be greater or lesser evils. So the 7 evils that were born out of Ta'met, the 3 rulers of course were Mephisto, Diablo and Baal. They were the prime evils. The lesser evils also included Andariel, Duriel, Belial and Asmodan. What was wished by their ancestors was fulfilled by the successors. Both residents of heaven and hell, the angels and the demons, continued fighting against each other to no end. But one of the angels from high heavens, a member of the Injurious Council, Inarius, grew tired of the fighting and sought out for solace from one of his confidants. When he didn't find it, he went around until he found someone who shared his beliefs, and one of the such person was called Lilith, who was a daughter of Mephisto. Together they left the whole war, and they managed to steal the World Stone. This World Stone was then taken from the place where it was first created, or left over by Anu, that is, and they managed to create a sanctuary. There are no exact specifications on how this was achieved, but it has been written that sanctuary was well created and it remained protected for a decent amount of time. As time went by, they had their first children. These were the first successors, the first generation of humans, and they were called Nephilim. These Nephilims were way stronger than the current humans in Diablo Universe, for they held the power of their parents, but had great untapped potential that they didn't know so far. So as the war waged on in heaven and hell, there was a time when these 2 races of heaven and hell who defected from the war lived peacefully on Scantuary. A guardian of the Sanctuary was installed to keep all heaven and hell away from, knowing their existence, and this guardian was called Trag'Oul. He managed to do so for a very long time, but as time went by, the primevals, the Great 3 that is, were able to discover the Sanctuary, and then started the ever-ending conflict of Sanctuary itself. When the primevals did discover it, they created a religion in the Sanctuary called Triune. Their belief was the humans, these Nephilims, possessed great powers, and they could channel this power, misguide them to fight against the heavens, and win the war, as in, the balance of war that was always installed, heaven and hell being equally matched, would finally tilt in favor of hell, if these humans joined the battle. So they made this religion called Triune, and then the person who created the Sanctuary made his own society, a Cathedral of Light, to combat the Triune. War waged on, and on the third side, Lilith also had a change of mind. She was imprisoned earlier, and she broke out of the prison, and then she had her own mind to govern heaven and hell from the Sanctuary itself. In all this time, this great turmoil with so many new characters, new heroes jumping in, the very first true hero of Sanctuary emerged in a name called Odyssean. He was a distant descendant of Lilith and Inarius. He did manage to understand the plot of Lilith, and went around trying to gather a party of his own, trying to, change things in his own way. Odyssean and his band of followers, which also included a brother, was finally termed Idirim. That was the name that was bestowed upon them. At the same time, Lilith was growing impatient. She realized that she couldn't rule the world on her own. She needed the help of the World Stone, as in the power of the world itself. Inarius was then eventually dragged into conflict. Out of jealousy, of course, he realized that one of his descendants was actually becoming more powerful than him, and then he sent one of his assassins, Gamuel, to kill Odyssean. The plot failed, and then the very first pact with Diablo himself was made. Out of desperation, Inarius went to Diablo, made a pact, and asked Diablo to slay him for him. Time went by. Trag'Oul, with his almighty power, tried to still hide the location of Sanctuary from heaven, but eventually Tyrael, the Archangel, managed to locate it. Starting from the beginning, we've looked at the creation of the Diablo Universe and the events it led up to. We still haven't gone even to the first Diablo game. These are all the events before that. So please stay tuned in for more. I have a lot more to say on this. I hope you like this new video series of mine. This has been the Holy Hermit for you with part 1 of Diablo lore. Stay tuned for more. I hope you all have a nice day ahead. I'm out now. Bye.